Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Please tell me whether my audio and video is clear or not. Then I'm going to start the session. Good morning, Madhav, Surekha. A very good morning to all of you. I hope you guys are doing well. I welcome you to the live mint analysis that we do every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I bring in the important articles from the newspaper, try to connect it with the static portion, and then we do the details. Hi, Kanksha. Okay, all clear. Good morning, Kirti. Chalo, before I begin, if you want to download this YouTube class PDF, you can do it from the Oliveboard app. Go to the courses section. There's going to be a separate YouTube class PDFs folder. You can download it from there. You can also download, the PDF from my Telegram channel. I will send the PDF over there. Mannat Educator is my Telegram handle. Fine, just type Mannat Educator and you will have access to my group, which is Economics with Mannat. Fine, I'll share the PDF over here. Chaliye, so let's talk about the first news over here, which is that India plans 1800 crore scheme to boost local manufacturing of drones. See, India has been focusing on local, or you can say domestic manufacturing for almost everything. Why? Because over a period of time we have realized that self-reliance is extremely important. Even in even in a globalized world, it is very important for us to be self-reliant, to have at least enough sources domestically only, है ना? So that we are not dependent, so that we can reduce our dependence on other countries. Because what is happening today is the world is fighting, right? We are seeing so many geopolitical tensions across the across the world. We are seeing so many supply chain disruptions across the world. We are seeing that economies are fighting amongst each other, so a lot of we can see a lot of problem in this scenario, right? So it is better for us to be self-reliant, and that is why we are focusing on domestic manufacturing, local manufacturing. Good morning, Manpreet Rhino. Good, yes, Madhav. We want to become Atmanirbhar in all sense. Not we are not condemning the fact that we won't integrate with the rest of the world. Of course, integration is going to be there, but integration comes with a byproduct, which is risk and dependence. है ना? Risk and dependence. So integration comes with a byproduct, which is risk and dependence. And for that, the solution is that we should be self-reliant in everything. In a globalized world, we have to be self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat. ठीक है? Only that is going to lead us to this path or of developed India by the year 2047. Otherwise, we will stay dependent on each and every country, and disruptions are inevitable. Somewhere there's going to be some other problem, and we can't let all of these problems define our manufacturing route or our developed route. That is why independence is very, very important in all aspects. Right? So here India plans 1800 crore scheme to boost local manufacturing of drones. Which scheme am I talking about over here? Mission Drone Shakti. So which scheme? Mission Drone Shakti. This is the name of the scheme. And around 1600 to 1800 crore is the outlay. So ये Mission Drone Shakti आपके news में है, so it automatically becomes important for you to cover it in detail. ठीक है, तो ये आपका होमवर्क है, आपने ये डिटेल में पढ़ लेना है. व्हाट इज योर ऑब्जेक्टिव? यू वांट टू बूस्ट डोमेस्टिक ड्रोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड अडॉप्शन. तो यूजुअली कहाँ से हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं? वी इंपोर्ट फ्रॉम मेजरली फ्रॉम China, and because you want to reduce our dependence on China, that is why we have this mission drone Shakti also. Good morning, Aditya. Good morning. Here, the focus is on reducing import dependence, and likely by financial year 27, we are going to see a rollout for a period of 5 years. ठीक है, तो 5 साल के तक के लिए ये स्कीम होगी, एंड वी विल बी टारगेटिंग प्राइवेट इंडियन फर्म्स. तो आप देखो कि गवर्नमेंट का बहुत ज्यादा बेंड ये रहा है दैट वी शुड फोकस ऑन द प्राइवेट सेक्टर, मोबिलाइज रिसोर्सेज फ्रॉम द प्राइवेट सेक्टर, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली गवर्नमेंट के पास रिसोर्सेज आर लिमिटेड. So it's better that the government, rather than taking a lot of pressure on itself, hires the private sector to do all of such kind of things. So these are the details that you have to remember, that R&D allocation is going to be 500 to 600 crore and total outlay 1600 to 1800 crore directly in the MCQ format. This can be asked. And remaining funds will be तो इसमें से out of this 1600 to 1800 crore 500 to 600 will be for R&D, research and development, which is very important. देखो India, India's weak point is that we do not invest much in R&D as compared to the developed countries. Our R&D investment is very very low, है ना, R&D investment is quite low in the country. ठीक है. So over here, out of this 500 to 600 for R&D allocation, remaining funds will be given for manufacturing and sales linked incentives, है ना. So sales linked incentive is also known as production linked incentive. This is a very important scheme which we have started, that हम पहले incentives नहीं देंगे, we won't give subsidies before, but we are going to give you incentives based on your incremental sales. Based on your incremental sales, we are going to give you incentives. Incremental sales मतलब कि पिछले साल से as compared to the previous year, what are the extra sales that you are doing. What are the focus areas? Critical components are the focus areas, and private Indian firms are going to be the beneficiaries in this particular scheme. There's a PLI scheme for drones. India had introduced in 2021 approximately 120 crore, but domestic manufacturing ecosystem is still weak. तो हमारा domestic manufacturing जो system है, ecosystem है, वो काफी weak है. अभी हमने अच्छे से उसे नहीं देखा है, and we rely on imports for motors, propellers, GPS systems, batteries and controllers. इन सब चीजों पे हम rely करते हैं. हमारा drone market size is approximately 4500 crore currently, and it might reach 1.66 trillion rupees by financial year 27, and that is why we have this particular scheme. ठीक है. Fine. So I hope the PLI incentive scheme, the meaning of PLI, I hope is clear. It is going to really boost our Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. We are going to develop a high-tech manufacturing ecosystem. तो हमारा high-tech manufacturing ecosystem भी बनेगा. It is going to lead to obviously job creation also. So employment scenario is also going to be good. है ना. And the China dependence will be reduced. We are trying to reduce our dependence on China from on each and everything. We rely on a lot of stuff from China. We have a huge trade deficit with China, and that is why we are trying to reduce our dependence. What is trade deficit? Trade deficit matlab wherein our imports are greater than our exports. So this leads to a gap, and it leads to a lot of ड्रेनिंग ऑफ आर फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स. हमारे फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स बहुत ज़्यादा ड्रेन होते हैं इन दिस केस, इंपोर्ट्स जब ज़्यादा होते हैं. हमारा करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट इंक्रीजेस, and that positions India into into a negative scenario, right? Yeah, imports are greater than exports. Yes, Monisha, right? Fine. So this was what the news is about. ठीक है. तो आपने मिशन ड्रोन शक्ति जो है उसको एकदम डिटेल में करना है. फ्रॉम योर एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू द स्कीम बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट. तो जहाँ पे भी आप नोट्स बना रहे हो ना, तो वहाँ पे एक साइड पे लिख दो कि यू हैव टू कवर मिशन ड्रोन शक्ति. इट इज इन न्यूज, सो लाइकली यू विल हैव अ क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम दैट. ठीक है. Government mulls a QR check for retail stores quality and to check out the quality and the prices. Now when you go to the retail stores, बहुत चीजें होती हैं कि you're not able to basically judge कि what is the quality, है ना, is the price correct, what all ingredients are there in that particular commodity. So we are trying to build a QR code system in the retail stores. तो वहाँ पे आप scan करके before you buy a product, you can scan on the QR code and read about the details of the product. So that is what the government is trying to do over here. हाँ माधव, difference between imports and exports, जिसमें imports आपके ज़्यादा रहते हैं, right? तो basically ये QR code based certification है for retail stores, and consumers क्या क्या check कर सकते हैं on this QR code. By scanning it, you can check whether whether they are BIS compliant, Bureau of Indian Standards. BIS is Bureau of Indian Standards. This is the standard setting body. The Bureau of Indian Standards set करते हैं so that the quality of any product is ensured. ठीक है. क्वालिटी ऑफ एवरी प्रोडक्ट शुड बी इंश्योर्ड. उसके लिए ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड्स ब्रिंग इन सर्टेन स्टैंडर्ड्स. तो हम चेक करते हैं कि वेदर इट इज BIS कंप्लायंट. प्राइसिंग कैसी है, वेट्स एंड मेजर्स, यू कैन चेक एवरीथिंग थ्रू द QR कोड. ठीक है, तो ये हम कंज्यूमर्स की प्रोटेक्शन के लिए मेजरली कर रहे हैं एंड रिटेल सेक्टर को फॉर्मलाइज करने की बात कर रहे हैं ताकि ब्लैक मनी कम से कम हो, फॉर्मलाइज हो इकोनॉमी, है ना. बिकॉज इफ यू सी देयर आर टू सेक्टर्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमी, one is the formal sector and the other is the informal sector, right? We can also call this as the organized sector, we can call this as the unorganized sector, unorganized sector, right? तो ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर का ये सिनेरियो रहता है कि यू नो ऑल द रूल्स रेगुलेशंस, है ना, ऑल ऑफ देम आर एप्लीकेबल टू यू, यू गेट द सोशल सिक्योरिटी, you get job security, so everything is available to you. EPF, PPF contributions and all are paid. Then tax returns are filed, so all of these come under the organized sector. Informal sector mein 90% of the workforce, if you see in India, they are part of the unorganized sector, and these are like small vendors and all. Example, you have the vendors, street vendors, है ना. तो all these rules, regulations, they are not compliant with that. They do not file the tax returns and all, ITR and all, and social job security नहीं होती है. And our motive is that we have to formalize this economy. जो ये informal sector है, we want to basically formalize this sector, and this is going to be a step towards that. ठीक है, and we are also going to integrate it with the electronic mapping system. तो e-map system से भी हम इसको link कर देंगे. If we talk about India's retail sector, we have around 15 plus million retailers. बहुत ज़्यादा informal है, highly fragmented है, और approximately 10% contribution to GDP is by the retail sector only. 10% to GDP, 8% to employment. तो ये काफी अच्छा शेयर है. You know, you are providing employment and contribution to GDP is also good. But there are problems related to informalization of the sector, and this is going to be a step towards formalization. ठीक है, and current जो system है, it relies on physical certificates, but now everything is going to be online. तो अगर ये physical certificates हैं तो इसमें manipulation भी हो सकती है ना, manipulation is also possible, है ना. तो अगर हम ऑनलाइन कर देंगे, so this manipulation is going to reduce. Fine. So what is going to be the mechanism? A QR code will be displayed at the retail outlet. Consumers scan via their smartphone, so you can scan it on your own. And what all things are going to be covered? Clothing, grocery, restaurant, etc. Everything is going to be covered. Quality certification can be checked. Pricing, weights, compliance is going to be checked. It is going to be integrated with the centralized digital repository and the e-map system. And it is going to be tamper-proof, non-duplicable, proper QR code certification. ठीक है, so BIS क्या है? Standardization and quality certification is provided by them, right? And this is what is your basic. एंड ई मैप प्लेटफॉर्म क्या है? डिजिटल मैपिंग है, मतलब कि बिजनेसेस की डिजिटल मैपिंग हो जाती है. डिजिटली दे आर मैप्ड हाउ द बिजनेस इज परफॉर्मिंग, एंड सेंट्रलाइज मॉनिटरिंग इस तरह से हो सकती है. ठीक है, सो इट इज गोइंग टू रियली हेल्प इन फॉर्मलाइजेशन. ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस बन जाएगा, कंप्लायंस क्लैरिटी रहेगी, इंफॉर्मेशन एसिमेट्री इज गोइंग टू बी रिड्यूस्ड. व्हाट इज इंफॉर्मेशन एसिमेट्री? asymmetrical information means is the screen blank? Please check, all of you. Please let me know whether the audio video is clear. It looks fine from my side. Siddharth is saying why screen is black. Please kind of rejoin. Acha, Aditya is saying video is fine to me. So you need to check your internet connection, Siddharth, then in that case. So asymmetrical information means where one party has more information, than the other party. Okay, everybody is saying it's clear. Then please check on your internet connection, Siddharth. All right, please rejoin. One party has more information than the other party, that is known as asymmetrical information. And mostly the producers have more information than the consumers. So to bridge this gap of information, we have this particular QR system. So it is going to really help in reducing this asymmetrical information, and it is going to build trust and transparency. Fine. So fraud are also going to be reduced, like overpricing or substandard goods, koi quality achhi nahi hai. And so all those kind of frauds will also be reduced. And then there's this very brief statement that Nirmala Sitharaman is saying that India is not facing an energy shortage as of now. See, energy, if I talk about energy, na, there are three things here. One is crude oil, right? Ma'am, do you think it can solve lemon market problem? Yes, Aditya. So the lemon market problem, exactly, the market for lemons, which obviously is because of this asymmetrical information, it can solve, not completely, but yes, it is going to be a step to solve that problem. You're absolutely right, Aditya. Fine. So energy में आ जाता है हमारा crude oil, we have LPG, we have LNG, ठीक है? We have LPG, we have LNG. Now for crude oil, एक तो एक तो we have our strategic petroleum reserves for crude oil. We have non Middle East sources also, like we have Russian oil and all, है ना? Non Middle East sources like Russia, जहाँ से हम oil ले सकते हैं, है ना? We have other countries जहाँ से we can bring in oil. LPG and LNG are, the problematic things over here. Problematic thing over here कि अगर disruption continued रही तो यहाँ पे ज़्यादा, if it will be continued for a long period of time, it is going to really impact the economy. If I talk about LPG, अभी जैसे 2 tankers हैं हमारे, अभी दूसरा जो नंदा देवी टैंकर है वो अभी पास हुआ स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज से. इंडिया एंड ईरान हैड डिस्कस्ड की कोई बात नहीं है, स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज से इंडिया के 2 टैंकर्स जा सकते हैं. सो वी वर अलाउड, because of our diplomacy we were allowed that. फिर अगर मैं LNG की बात करूँ, liquefied natural gas, this is a major problematic thing, क्योंकि यहाँ से हमारा जो fertilizers हैं वो भी बनते हैं through this natural gas, है ना? यूरिया बनता है, तो उससे फूड सब्सिडी, फर्टिलाइजर एंड फूड सब्सिडी का इशू रह सकता है. So Nirmala Sitharaman, as of now, she is saying that we are not facing any energy shortage due to the crisis in West Asia. Right, we have taken up supplementary demand for grants also. We've talked about the supplementary demand for grants in the previous class, right? तो supplementary demand for grants भी मांगे हैं, ज़्यादा पैसा मांगा है, so that we can implement certain reforms, right? And we can have more stimulus in the economy. We have our domestic capacity we are also trying to ramp up our domestic capacity, and refiners and petrochemical complexes, they're trying to maximize LPG by diverting propane, butane, propylene. ये हमने already देख लिया है ना? And so basically we are doing fine as of now. अभी तक हमारा कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, but obviously in future if there's going to be a problem, then we might see disruption, है ना? Then US seeks permanent WTO ban on e-commerce tariffs. तो e-commerce पे usually tariffs लगते हैं, e-commerce के ऊपर usually tariffs लगते हैं, and after every 2 years it is revised. ठीक है, as of now ये scenario है कि e-commerce, जो आपके इलेक्ट्रॉनिक e-commerce इंडस्ट्रीज एंड ऑल है, मोस्टली दीज आर ह्यूज यूएस जायंट्स, है ना? ह्यूज यूएस जायंट्स है आपके. तो ई-कॉमर्स के ऊपर टैरिफ्स एज ऑफ नाउ 2 years के टाइम पीरियड में रिवाइज हो जाते हैं. दिस इज द करंट सिनेरियो. सो नाउ यूएस इज पुशिंग टू मेक परमानेंट द WTO moratorium on custom duties on e-commerce electronic transmissions, which has been renewed every 2 years. So now US is saying कि completely put a ban on these tariffs. जो हम e-commerce पे tariffs लगा रहे हैं, completely put a ban on this. We should not be charging tariffs. Countries cannot, this would mean that countries cannot impose tariffs on digital goods and services. जैसे software downloads, streaming, cloud services, data flows. Cementing a duty-free global digital trade regime. So we're going to have a duty-free. That is what US is trying to do. Okay, so there's going to be this 14th ministerial conference of the WTO in Cameroon, जहाँ पे कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया, ब्राजील एंड साउथ अफ्रीका ये अपोज करेंगे. दे आर गोइंग टू अपोज इट. अब देखो, इफ सपोज इट इज अ डेवलपिंग कंट्री लाइक इंडिया, अब यहाँ पे जो ई-कॉमर्स के ऊपर अगर टैरिफ्स हटा देंगे तो एक तो इंडिया का रेवेन्यू विल बी रिड्यूस्ड, सो सिग्निफिकेंट रेवेन्यू कम्स फ्रॉम दैट. दूसरी चीज ये हो जाएगी कि बहुत ज्यादा डिपेंडेंस और ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगी ऑन दीज ई-कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म, बिकॉज दीज विल बी वेरी चीप, दील बी अवेलेबल एट अ वेरी चीप रेट, एंड तो सबके लिए ये बहुत ज्यादा ईजी हो जाएगा. So this is going to lead to a loss in tariff revenue. Data sovereignty से related concerns रहेंगे, है ना? And policy, हम कोई अपनी इंडिया की अगर कोई पॉलिसी है हम वो नहीं लेकर आ पाएंगे. That is another problem over here. ठीक है, तो ये decision has major implications for global digital trade governance, big tech dominance, है ना? बहुत ज़्यादा ये जो major countries है like US, they are going to have again its dominance, and developing countries के पास अपनी flexibility कम हो जाएगी. So this moratorium was introduced in 1998 कि जब इंटरनेट इकोनॉमी शुरू हुई थी, और ये बाइनरी रिव्यू होती है, अभी परमानेंट नहीं हुई है मोरेटोरियम, है ना? कि बट डिजिटल ट्रेड, इफ यू सी, इट हैज एक्सपैंडेड अ लॉट. इट इंक्लूड्स OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स जो आपका नेटफ्लिक्स एंड ऑल है ना? Monisha, World Trade Organization, WTO is World Trade Organization. So, Monisha, you're part of the 9 p.m. batch that I take up now. So, today we had to cover WTO only, World Trade Organization. It is an international level organization which facilitates trade. Today, Monisha, you're part of the batch. So today we are going to do WTO only in detail. Okay. So don't worry. We're going to discuss what World Trade Organization is, and we're going to do what is its ambit and all. Fine. Okay. Chalo. So digital trade has expanded massively, and which includes OTT, your Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of these things. Cloud computing, जो on the cloud आप इंटरनेट पे सब कुछ स्टोर कर सकते हैं, right? AI data flows, software services, all of these have expanded massively, immensely. ठीक है, and WTO का estimate है that 4.8 trillion dollars of digital service exports were there in 2024, और इसीलिए और जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज हैं जैसे यूएस ईयू, दे डोमिनेट 70% शेयर नॉर्थ अमेरिकन एंड यूरोपियन फर्म्स का ही है. तो अगर उन्होंने ये जो ड्यूटी फ्री कर दिया, सो इट इज गोइंग टू इम्पैक्ट डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया, ब्राजील एंड ऑल. ठीक है. WTO इसका काम है कि ट्रेड दो कंट्री में अच्छे से हो, डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन करना, ग्लोबलाइजेशन हेल्प करता है. यस माधव, वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड. तो अब ये कस्टम ड्यूटीज को कम कर देगा ये मोरेटोरियम, और फ्री फ्लो ऑफ डिजिटल ट्रेड होगा विच इज गोइंग टू इम्पैक्ट द डेवलपिंग इकोनॉमीज. अगर ये परमानेंट हुआ तो ग्लोबल डिजिटल ट्रेड को तो बूस्ट मिलेगा. बिग टेक डोमिनेंस जो है गूगल, अमेजोन, इनकी और ज्यादा डोमिनेंस बढ़ जाएगी. एंड पॉलिसी टूल्स डेवलपिंग नेशंस के लिए दे गोइंग टू बी रिड्यूस्ड. ठीक है. आई होप दिस इज क्लियर एवरीवन. Then India taps Iran for safe passage of oil LPG vessels. ये हमने पहली क्लास में भी देखा था that India अभी भी they're in talks. अभी तो 2 टैंकर्स तो आ चुके हैं, but immediate focus is on 6 LPG tankers and 2 crude oil carriers which are carrying approximately 270,000 tons of LPG, जो 3 days इंडिया की कंजम्पशन के लिए सिर्फ 3 days का पूरा कर सकता है, covering 1.9 million households. Basically, right now they are in talks with Iran to allow this particular thing. ठीक है. Our aim is that we need to prevent any kind of short term supply disruption, stabilize domestic energy availability, और बहुत ज्यादा price spikes ना हो, panic buying ना हो. Fine. ठीक है. So India is very very dependent on West Asia. 90% जो LPG imports हैं and 50% of crude imports इसी region से आते हैं. This is your Strait of Hormuz. देखो यहाँ पे है आपका अरेबियन सी, दिस इज योर अरेबियन सी, है ना. यहाँ पे है आपका इंडिया, है ना. एंड यहाँ पे है आपका गल्फ ऑफ ओमान. यहाँ पे है आपका पर्शियन गल्फ, राइट. So the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow water body which connects. दो साइड से उसके लैंड होते हैं, दो बड़ी बड़ी वाटर बॉडीज को कनेक्ट करता है स्ट्रेट. इट्स अ वेरी नैरो, इट्स अ क्रिटिकल चोक पॉइंट इफ यू सी. तो पर्शियन गल्फ के थ्रू यहाँ से अप्रोक्सीमेटली 20% ऑफ द ग्लोबल जो ट्रेड है वो इसी रूट से होती है. एंड इंडिया का मैक्सिमम यू कैन सी 90% ऑफ LPG इंपोर्ट्स एंड 50% ऑफ क्रूड इंपोर्ट्स इसी रूट से आता है. एंड थ्रू गल्फ ऑफ ओमान, थ्रू अरेबियन से फिर हमारे पास जाता है. दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रूट फॉर अस इफ यू सी. इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रूट, इसी रीजन से आता है. तो अब ये डिस्टर्ब होगा, सो इट इज गोइंग टू रियली इम्पैक्ट आवर इकोनॉमी. Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical oil choke points, है ना. 20% approximately global oil trade को ये देखता है. जो geopolitical tensions है ongoing in West Asia, उससे हमारे शिपिंग रिस्क्स रहते हैं. इम्पोर्ट डिपेंडेंसी फॉर एनर्जी है, हम उनके ऊपर बहुत इम्पोर्ट करते हैं. अभी आजकल सिलेंडर्स लोग खरीद रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द LPG शॉर्टेज. Right, so our motive is that we want to focus on energy security ताकि reliable supply रहे, affordable prices रहे, uninterrupted access रहे. Strait of Hormuz का जो ये narrow sea route है, बहुत conflicts है इसमें, blockades है यहाँ पे, supply chain disruptions है which is leading to shortages, which is going to impact economically. It is going to lead to an increase in inflation, cost push inflation कह सकते हैं. ठीक है. This is LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. पेट्रोलियम से ये बेसिकली पेट्रोलियम को हम अप्रोक्सीमेटली -162 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे उसको हम उसको हम लिक्विफाई करते हैं, है ना. तो लिक्विफाइड पेट्रोलियम है, पेट्रोलियम का है. एंड LNG इज नेचुरल गैस. तो ये नेचुरल गैस का बाई प्रोडक्ट है, और ये है आपका पेट्रोलियम से बनता है. ये पेट्रोलियम से बनता है, ये बनता है नेचुरल गैस से. Okay, fine, Sureka, that is the major difference. Acha, I should explain it in English to you, है ना? So LPG is basically from petroleum. You get it from petroleum, the gaseous form of petroleum, and LNG you get it from natural gas. These are the two. These are the two different things: natural gas and petroleum. So LPG is from your petroleum, which is this is a gaseous form developed from petroleum, which is used in your cylinders and all, and the cooking gas and all. And LNG from natural gas, which is another. It's a separate thing. You get it from shales and all, natural gas, and from that it is, you make your fertilizers and all, like urea, and that's for urea is made through this natural gas. Is that clear, Sureka? Of course they can intercept. See, there's a lot of geopolitics involved in this case, Prashasti. Iran, if you see the Middle East area, we have, this is your this is your Strait of Hormuz. Is on this side we have Iran, on this side we have Saudi Arabia, and we have Oman, Yemen, and all. We have all of these countries over here. US cannot directly just capture the Strait of Hormuz. US is sitting somewhere else. Iran is physically present over here. There's a difference between physical presence and presence from over here. So US can capture it for a short period of time. It can capture it obviously, but it cannot capture it for a long period of time, and it cannot run this area from the US. There's a problem because there are a lot of other countries also which is in this particular area. And Iran is a major country. It's physically present over there. It can control the Strait of Hormuz on its own. Of course, it has better defense capabilities, but I had made this a very short reel also on this. I made a very short reel also on this, that can Iran actually fight back against the US? So militarily, yes, not. Obviously, Iran has age old, mm, uh, uh, defense stuff, and US is obviously better in defense. It can, uh, uh, you know, bring changes over here. It can capture it, but it obviously won't do it. It can't it can't create such a, it is creating a threat indirectly, but if it sits over there, it is going to be a threat to each and every country over here, and this is going to be give a negative signal to each and every country over here. At the global level also, it is going to give a negative signal. And it might even happen that all of these countries come together against the US also. So these are all strategic decisions which are taken up. They are thought of very strategically. This is going to be a huge mistake if they capture the Strait of Hormuz. They cannot even do this. Okay? US is also dependent on this region for a lot of stuff. And all of these countries, if you try to disrupt Strait of Hormuz सिर्फ Iran का थोड़ी है. It is not particularly only of Iran. It's just that Iran is closest to the Strait of Hormuz. So your question, Prashasti, which you are saying that US is going to capture, it is going to impact all of these countries. Gulf regions, पूरा Middle East पे impact पड़ेगा अगर US ने उसको capture किया. है ना? तो वो एक बहुत नेगेटिव सेंटिमेंट क्रिएट करेगा, एंड एवरीबॉडी इज गोना बी अगेंस्ट यूएस इन दैट केस. ठीक है, यूएस डिड दैट काइंड ऑफ मिस्टेक ड्यूरिंग वियतनाम वॉर, और आपने देखा ही था यूएस ने वियतनाम के टाइम पे ऐसा किया था. वियतनाम में देयर वाज दिस क्राइसिस जो उनके अंदर व्हाट डू यू कॉल इट, between its own country, I'm forgetting, उसमें अपना ही वियतनाम वॉर में यूएस ने ऐसे करने की कोशिश की थी, एंड एट द एंड व्हाट हैपेंड, इतने समय तक ये वियतनाम वॉर चला, इतना पैसा खर्च हुआ, इतनी प्रॉब्लम हुई, लेकिन एट द एंड यूएस हैड टू कम बैक टू इट्स ओन कंट्री. तो आप कहीं और बहुत किसी और दूर देश से कुछ नहीं चला सकते. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इवन यूके केम इन साइड ऑफ द कंट्री, यूके केम इन इंडिया अल्टीमेटली टू रूल इंडिया, बट यूके इतनी दूर है, it cannot really govern India for a long period of time. बहुत टाइम तक किया, लेकिन ultimately it had to go back जब उसकी खुद के रिजर्व्स खत्म हो जाएंगे, है ना, लाइक दैट. तो ये एक नेगेटिव चीज, इतना नेगेटिव सेंटिमेंट हम नहीं शो कर सकते. आई हैड मेड अ वीडियो ऑन दिस, चेक आउट माय यूट्यूब चैनल, है ना, इफ यू हैवंट. यूट्यूब चैनल पे, इंस्टाग्राम पे भी मैंने ये डाली है, इकोनॉमिक्स विद मन्नत. सो you can check that out as well. I had explained this particular thing way back, है ना, काफी दिन जब ये स्टार्ट हुआ था. तो इकोनॉमिक्स विद मन्नत है, यूट्यूब भी एंड वो भी, तो आप इस पे चेक कर सकते हो. फाइन, आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. Why India requires a specialized institution for transition finance? Can anybody tell me? There's एक तो है transition finance, something is known as transition finance, and there's another word called green finance. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between the two? Any guesses? Any guesses? Any guess, anybody? On one side we have green finance, and on the other side I'm saying transition finance. देखो, green finance basically means when you try to raise money, when you raise money and the money that you raise is used for friendly, environmental friendly projects, है ना? Or eco-friendly projects. Eco-friendly projects. We are talking about greenfield projects in this case. Greenfield projects, new projects. Greenfield projects means absolutely new project. And bilkul new. Green finance is the financial services that are used to boost green and renewable resource production. Transition convert karna from high level carbon to low, maybe. Yes, very good, Madhav. Green finance is finance for sustainable projects. Yes. So finance for sustainable projects, but new sustainable projects. New sustainable projects. So we're talking about greenfield projects here. Transition finance, on the other hand, is for brownfield projects. Brownfield मतलब जो existing है, मतलब कि transition करना from a high carbon emission based industry to a low carbon based emission industry. This transition is what is known as transition finance. So what is transition finance? When we are trying to uh, decarbonize existing facilities, those are known as, that is what is known as transition finance. So raising money for converting one fossil fuel based maybe machinery or fossil fuel based company to maybe a clean energy based company. Okay, I hope the difference between transition finance and green finance is clear to all of you. So here this article is saying that why India requires a specialized institution for transition finance. So basically, what the problem is that India wants to become a low carbon economy, right? But we want to have economic growth also. We want to focus on economic growth also, but we want to be sustainable as well. How should we do it how should we do that, and how we can move further with this in hand? That is one problem that India has. We want to become a developed country also. We want to become a developed country by the year 2047. For that, economic growth is necessary, and we also want this we also have this target of net zero emissions by 2070. So we want to become sustainable also. So how both of these should be balanced? For that, transition finance is very important. So they are saying that traditional banking systems are ill equipped. जो हमारे ट्रेडिशनल बैंक्स हैं, बैंकिंग सिस्टम्स हैं, they are ill equipped because in this scenario we need high amount of money, we need lots of money, plus we need it for a long period of time. So the gestation period is quite high. The gestation period is quite high. Means we need finance for 15 to 25 years. If you want to transition from a fossil fuel based energy to a low carbon economy, we need projects. We need money for projects which have long gestation periods, जो बहुत सालों के लिए चलते हैं, 15 to 25 years. They have high uncertainty also, technological risks also. So if we want to focus on decarbonization, our traditional banking system is ill equipped to resolve such problems. And because of that, what happens is under investment होता है. अंडर इन्वेस्टमेंट होता है डिकार्बनाइजेशन फैसिलिटीज में. दैट इज हम बहुत फास्ट तरीके से ट्रांजिशन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. ठीक है. सो वी नीड अ dedicated institution with patient capital. Patient capital means the capital which can be provided for a long term. बहुत ज्यादा long term के लिए that capital can be provided. That is patient capital. We need proper risk sharing mechanisms. We need to have technical expertise also so that we can bridge this particular gap. And ताकि जो financial flows हैं, they can align with climate goals. So for fulfilling our climate goals, we need long-term kind of loans which have long gestation periods, and that is why we need a new model for this. जैसे we have IIFCL, अभी हमने, if you guys have watched that video, I have taken up a video on what IIFCL, that was also for infrastructure, because infrastructure maybe there are long gestation periods, so maybe we should have an organization like IIFCL, है ना? No, that is for proper infrastructure development ना. अभी उसके अंदर renewable energy वाला component अभी बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं focus किया है. Majorly it's for physical, social जो proper infrastructure है उसके अंदर. हाँ प्रशस्ति, ठीक है. I thought of you will get this question here, but IIFCL का major proper infrastructure development में उसमें clean energy की बात इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं की गई है. Very less. So we need a dedicated, like IIFCL, we need a dedicated institution which is only going to focus on green finance or transition finance. ठीक है. प्लस बहुत ज्यादा ग्लोबल प्रेशर्स भी है. आई होप यू नो अबाउट द कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म. तो व्हाट इज दिस कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म? कैन एनीबडी टेल मी? ईयू का है ये. दिस इज सपोज्ड टू स्टार्ट इन 2026. तो वो उससे रिलेटेड भी वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर. व्हाट इज दिस कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म? एनीबडी राइट डाउन इन द कमेंट सेक्शन एंड टेल मी. If I talk about India's investment needs, we need around approximately 14.7 to 22.7 trillion rupees, trillion dollars for green transition. Our target is net zero emissions by 2070. And steel, cement, all these sectors are included here. जहाँ को हमें decarbonize करना है. We have CBAM, which is an international pressure carbon border adjustment mechanism. Basically इसमें क्या है ना कि EU, if it is importing any product, say from India, if it is importing any product from India, then obviously when India made this product, some carbon emissions were made. When this product was formed. So based on these carbon emissions, a tariff will be charged by EU. That because this product involves a lot of carbon emissions, so we are going to charge a tariff on you. कार्बन लिंक टैरिफ्स हैं जो 2026 इस साल से शुरू होंगे. So that is another pressure that we have, and that is the reason why we want to transition towards green finance. ठीक है? So I hope that the difference between green finance and transition finance is clear. New sustainable projects is what is green finance. Existing industries को अगर decarbonize करना है, that is transition finance. There's lower risk in case of green finance, but a very higher risk and uncertainty in case of transition finance. ये तो scratch से ही करना है, पर इसको तो हमें convert करना है. पता नहीं convert हो गया अच्छे से कि नहीं होगा, कितने losses होगा, कितनी uncertainty है. You never know for transition finance. ठीक है? हाँ, yes माधव, absolutely correct. आपका बिल्कुल ठीक है ये. And transition finance, that is why we need a new model. We need separate financing institution for this. ठीक है? तो physical risks भी है, climate event आ गया कोई, transition risks भी हैं, तो ये सब issue है. That is why we need to have a proper system for this. ठीक है? अब अगर हम global examples लें, so we have Germany's KfW bank है, which provides concessional green financing. यूरोपियन इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक है, क्लाइमेट बैंक मॉडल के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. यूके इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बैंक है. सो वी शुड हैव अ बैंक और एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और एन इंस्टीट्यूशन like this only. ठीक है? So it supports industrial competitiveness. It is going to prevent export losses due to CBM. Large scale climate investments में help करेगा, and it will reduce climate risks also, systemic climate risks also. तो ये सब impact पड़ेगा. Fine. Now carbon emissions during manufacturing will affect EU. What's the reason to put tariff? See, EU is charging a tariff कि we are using a product which has caused really harm to the environment, which has led to a lot of carbon emissions. So it is like a tax. Ultimately, EU is also part of the world now. So EU wants to support. This is like in support of climate change. This is kind of in support that this is going to promote. So EU is trying to promote clean buying, clean energy buying, or non-carbon based products only. If you are using products which have emitted a lot of carbon, so you are also in that line only कि you are promoting the consumption of carbon based products. ठीक है? So why do you move from having normal vegetables to organic vegetables? What is the reason? है ना? Organic vegetables, because when normal vegetables were made, the carbon emissions were done when the vegetables were made, but you have to consume that, na? You have to consume that. Why are you trying to consume organic vegetables than the normal vegetables? है ना, that scenario only. Surekha, I hope this is clear. That scenario is only over here. Why do you consume organic vegetables then rather than the normal vegetables? है ना? चलो. India Malls PNI Club for shipping lines. So what is this PNI Club? Domestic Protection and Indemnity Club. Domestic Protection and Indemnity Club. PNI Club. So for what? For insurance of the shipping lines. Insurance of shipping sector. फॉर दैट वी शुड हैव अ डोमेस्टिक पीएनआई. ये यहाँ पे ये कह रहे हैं कि जैसे इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे पीएनआईज है, अभी राइट नाउ वी आर डिपेंडिंग ऑन इंटरनेशनल लंडन बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ग्रुप ऑफ पीएनआई क्लब्स. वी आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन दैट, बट वी शुड हैव डोमेस्टिक प्रोटेक्शन एंड इंडेमनिटी क्लब आल्सो, ताकि इंश्योरेंस कवर कैन बी प्रोवाइडेड टू द शिपिंग लाइंस, because we are seeing a lot of disruptions, especially in the West Asia. So all the shipping lines are having a lot of problem in this case because of this West Asia tensions, because of Strait of Hormuz disruption. है ना. तो वी वांट टू प्रोवाइड एन इंश्योरेंस कवर टू दैट, एंड अभी तक इंश्योरेंस के लिए वी आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस लाइक वी हैव लंडन बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ग्रुप ऑफ पीएनआई क्लब्स. नाउ वी शुड हैव द डोमेस्टिक इंश्योरेंस कवर एज वेल. ठीक है. सो वी वांट टू रिड्यूस आवर डिपेंडेंस ऑन फॉरेन इंश्योरर्स, एंड वी आर करंटली कवरिंग ओवर 90% ऑफ ग्लोबल शिपिंग लाइबिलिटी. सो ये जो लंडन जैसे जो ये बेस्ड ग्रुप है, दे कवर 90% ऑफ ग्लोबल शिपिंग लाइबिलिटीज. तो अब ये देखो कि अगर सबने ही अपनी लाइबिलिटीज को मीटअप करना पड़े, तो हाउ इज लंडन बेस्ड दिस इंटरनेशनल ग्रुप गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड दैट इंश्योरेंस कवर? ठीक है. सो दे मे डिनाई कवरेज ड्यू टू सैंक्शंस एंड ऑल, आल्सो ड्यू टू जियोपॉलिटिकल रिस्क्स आल्सो. सो वी शुड हैव आवर ओन इंडिया क्लब, इंडिया फोकस्ड पीएनआई एंटिटी. वी शुड हैव इट. वी शुड ऑफर थर्ड पार्टी लाइबिलिटी इंश्योरेंस to the Indian ships, which is going to enhance their maritime resilience, energy security. ठीक है. Fine. So basically, protection and indemnity clubs, they are mutual insurance associations, non-profit रहती है ये. Third party liability insurance are provided to the shipments. For example, अगर oil spill हो गया, cargo damage हो गया, collision liabilities हो गया, या फिर कोई भी ऐसे geopolitical tensions हो गए, in that scenario, insurance is provided. So why do we need a PNI club? Because of sanctions and geopolitical issues, we can't depend so much on foreign insurance providers. We need to have a domestic Indian. We need to have a domestic protection for these Indian shipping lines. And if you see the recent trigger, 22 Indian ships were stranded under near Hormuz. So because of this problem, around 22 Indian ships faced a problem. ठीक है. Fine. Then RBI injects 48,014 crore via variable rate repo auction. So repo is nothing. Repo rate is nothing but the rate at which commercial banks can take loan from RBI for an overnight basis in exchange for securities. है ना? In exchange for securities, ये होता है repo rate. Now variable rate repo auction है ये. So RBI is injecting liquidity in the economy. मतलब कि through these auctions RBI rupees inject कर रहा है economy. Variable rate, usually repo rate is fixed at right now it is 5.25%, per variable. I just wanted to explain you what is the meaning of variable rate repo. So variable rate repo basically changes. It is not fixed like the normal repo rate. So RBI injected 48,014 crore in transient liquidity into the banking system through a 7-day variable rate repo auction. ठीक है. उसके थ्रू उन्होंने इंजेक्ट किया लिक्विडिटी, है ना. एंड वेटेड एवरेज कितना 5.26% पे किया है इन्होंने. फाइन. ठीक है. So these are all monetary policy tools. Please, your homework is you're going to read about the monetary policy tools, both qualitative and quantitative. ठीक है. Qualitative and quantitative also. Fine. Then India to up seismometer count 5-fold for early earthquake alerts. So India is planning to increase this seismometer network 5-fold ताकि हम detect कर पाए कि earthquake कितना है, कितने we can predict basically the earthquake so that necessary actions can be taken up. ठीक है. तो we might have approximately around 1,500 stations as compared to 300 stations, so that we can strengthen the earthquake early warning system. तो earthquake early warning system के लिए we are trying to amp this up. ठीक है. around 1,200 new seismometers will be installed to detect P waves and S waves. दो types की waves होती हैं, P waves and S waves under this earthquake scenario. जो P waves होती है बहुत fast होती हैं and they arrive first. They are non-destructive, but S waves पूरी body में flow करती हैं and highly destructive रहती हैं. So that we can identify the P waves and S waves, primary waves and secondary waves, which cause a lot of destruction. तो उसको डिटेक्ट करने के लिए we are going to have 45 seconds 45 seconds approximately हमें पता चल जाए before destructive secondary waves arrive, तो उससे हमें alert मिल जाए. That is why we have this. ठीक है. Weight average repo is higher than repo, so it means liquidity is low in the market. हाँ, liquidity is low in the market, exactly. तो banks की liquidity कम है ना. liquidity इसीलिए भी कम है because deposit rates are quite weak. deposit rates कम है. ठीक है. ठीक है. ऑक्शन ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज के थ्रू ना, प्रशस्ति सिक्योरिटीज जो आपके गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज नहीं है उसके ऑक्शन होते हैं. ठीक है. बेसिकली क्या होता है ना इसमें, मनी का यानी कि प्राइस का ऑक्शन नहीं होता, सिक्योरिटीज का ऑक्शन होता है. किसके पास कितनी ज्यादा सिक्योरिटीज है, प्रशस्ति. ठीक है. किसके पास कितनी ज्यादा सिक्योरिटीज है, क्योंकि हर किसी के पास गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज नॉट अवेलेबल है ना. किसी के पास हर किसी के पास लिमिटेड गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज है, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज हैव टू बी केप्ट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एसएलआर आल्सो, है ना. सो यू हैव स्पेसिफिक काइंड ऑफ और लिमिटेड गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज. सो प्राइस का ऑक्शन नहीं होता, प्राइस आपको उतने पे मिलेगा. जैसे वेरिएबल रेट रेपो 5.26% का यहाँ पे डिसाइड हुआ है ना. तो फिक्स्ड में यूजुअली क्या होता है कि प्राइस तो फिक्स्ड रहता है, पर वेरिएबल में प्राइस वेरीज. So based on who has government securities, based on that the price is decided and variable rate is decided. Okay, Prashasti, I hope this is clear. हाँ Aditya, see. RBI has two major roles. RBI has two major roles. One is stabilizing the rupee when it depreciates, and the other goal is to have enough liquidity in the banking system. तो लिक्विडिटी करने के लिए बैंक को इंजेक्ट करना पड़ता है मनी, जैसे कि अभी किया थ्रू द वेरिएबल रेट रेपो ऑक्शंस. लेकिन रुपी को स्टेबलाइज करने के लिए, डेप्रिसिएशन करने के लिए आरबीआई हैज टू एब्जॉर्ब रुपीज आल्सो, बिकॉज व्हाट हैपेंस ड्यूरिंग डेप्रिसिएशन ऑफ करेंसी इज व्हेन $1 is equal to say 70 rupees. now $1 is equal to say 90 rupees. 80 था पहले, अब 90 हो गया है ना. so what is happening in this case is now rupees value is declining. मतलब कि रुपी is in excess and the demand for dollar is high. लेकिन supply of dollar is less in this case. तो बहुत ज्यादा रुपीज है मार्केट में, है ना, फॉरेक्स मार्केट में. लेकिन बहुत ज्यादा रुपीज है फॉरेक्स मार्केट में, लेकिन डॉलर्स की कमी है. तो ताकि हम इस डेप्रिसिएशन को कम करें, टू रिड्यूस दिस डेप्रिसिएशन, आरबीआई ट्राइज टू इंजेक्ट डॉलर्स एंड रिड्यूस द रुपीज. तो इस एरिया में फॉरेन एक्सचेंज स्वैप्स करके या फिर ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस एंड ऑल करके यहाँ पे रुपी को किया जाता है स्टेबलाइज. बट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस बैंक्स की लिक्विडिटी कम हो जाती है, तो ऐसे रेपो रेट ऑक्शंस के थ्रू बैंक्स में इंजेक्ट की जाती है लिक्विडिटी. So basically RBI is trying to manage these two major objectives of the central bank, which is to also ensure liquidity in the banking system and to also stabilize the rupee in the forex market. Is that clear, Aditya? Did you get it? So that is why you are sometimes confused. Ki on one side RBI does a different it takes up a different stance, and on the other side it takes up a different stance. So that is basically to manage two different scenarios, to manage two different problems, to manage two different objectives and aims. Got it? I hope others have also understood this particular thing, right? Fine. So we were talking about this seismometer network that we are trying to build. We are going to trying to have more and more seismometers so that we can detect earthquakes earlier than before. So seismometer, it provides us real-time data, and it is low cost, high impact risk mitigation है, critical infrastructure, urban resilience, smart city planning, है ना, इन सब चीजों के लिए होता है. ठीक है. But of course there are disadvantages also. Limited warning time रहती है, and that is why we are trying to increase the number of seismometers. I hope this is clear. Next article we have that why definition of industry is now under Supreme Court review. So देखो, why did the top court agree to review the definition? First of all, let's see what is the reason. So in 1978 ना there was a 7-judge bench. तो उन्होंने एक broad interpretation दिया था कि what is the meaning of industry. कौन से एक्ट के अंदर दिया था? इंडस्ट्रियल डिस्प्यूट्स एक्ट ऑफ 1947. The the definition of industry was decided. A broad interpretation was there. But what has happened over the years is that employers and institutions, they have argued that this created uncertainty. So इस definition की वजह से ना there has been a lot of uncertainty whether organizations like government departments, hospitals, universities, welfare bodies, do they fall under labor laws or not? Do they fall under labor laws or not? जो government departments होते हैं इनके ऊपर labor laws applicable है या नहीं है? In 2005, this issue resurfaced in this Uttar Pradesh versus Jaybir Singh case. 5-judge constitution bench था. They observed that interpretation जो 1978 की हुई थी, it had created confusion about the scope of the term industry कि what industry actually means. ठीक है, so 1978 में actually क्या कहा था basically कि any organized activity, तो कोई भी organized activity जहाँ पे employers and employees work together, कोई भी type of organized activity है ये organized activity यानी कि we are talking about the organized sector over here where there are employers and where there are employees. They work together. Goods and services are produced for meeting the human needs. उस type of organization को we can call it an industry. ठीक है? The court clarified that profit making is not necessary for an organization to fall within this definition. You might be a profit making industry, you might be a non-profit making industry, you might be a non-governmental organization. If there is an employer-employee relationship, then and they're producing goods and services for basic human needs, then that will be considered as a industry. So basically, even charitable institutions, social organizations, welfare bodies, they can also be an industry. So this ruling introduced the triple test कि मतलब systematic activity होनी चाहिए, cooperation होनी चाहिए between employers and employees, and goods and services produced होने चाहिए. So there are 3 criteria for okay, so this is the 3 criteria for understanding what is an industry. Okay. Which laws govern labor disputes now? अब क्या है? We have the Industrial Relations Code. अब 4 new labor laws आए हैं, labor codes आए हैं, Industrial Relations Code जो Industrial Disputes Act, Trade Unions Act इन सब चीजों को लेकर आते हैं. So right now we have the Industrial Relations Code right now for this particular problem. So what is the scenario? So lawyer says 9-judge bench overturns or narrows. So now there is this 9-judge bench which is going to decide that what is the meaning of industry. अब यहाँ पे दोबारा से Supreme Court is reviewing that what should be the definition of industry. So if narrows the 1978 interpretation, 1978 की interpretation को narrow किया, sovereign or welfare oriented functions like hospitals, educational institutions, charitable trusts, clubs, municipal services, they could be excluded from the definition of industry. तो अगर ये 9-judge bench जो अभी बैठा है Supreme Court में review कर रहा है, अगर इन्होंने कहा that we are going to exclude these charitable trusts, educational institutions and all, तो definition of industry से ये exclude हो जाएंगे. Non-profits, universities, certain state-run welfare boards like water boards and all, they will also not come under the ambit of Industrial Disputes Act. Disputes could become costlier. Public sector unions may lose bargaining power. This is going to negatively impact. That means these labor laws will not be applicable on them. So you can't save yourself through these laws basically. Okay? So for employers, narrowing the definition could reduce their compliance burden. Obviously, for the employers, it is going to be good. But for trade unions and all, it is going to be negative. ठीक है, क्योंकि employers के लिए तो compliance and all कम हो जाएगी, है ना? Legal uncertainty कम हो जाएगी when they have to transition to the new labor codes. But for the employees, the employees will not get the benefits, employees or trade unions. That is the negative part here. Okay, so I hope you've understood. Let's see what is going to be the review. Let's see what is the Supreme Court going to decide. Keep a tap on this. ठीक है? उसके अलावा we have wholesale inflation over here. Wholesale inflation rises to 2.13% in February. So there are 2 types of inflation. We have retail inflation, which is measured through CPI. We have wholesale inflation, which is measured through your WPI. Usually जो आपका central bank है, it uses the CPI for its flexible inflation target framework, and a retail inflation is used, CPI is used, and headline inflation is used. What is the difference between headline and core inflation? Headline is the overall inflation and core excludes the volatile items like food, fuel and energy. ठीक है, वी हैव एम्पल नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स वी हैव डिस्कस्ड दिस. तो यहाँ पे वी हैव द न्यूज related to WPI which its inflation rose to 2.13% in February from 1.81% in January, and you can obviously say this is because of the geopolitical disruptions की हमारे जो prices बढ़ रहे हैं. ठीक है, इंक्रीज वाज ड्रिवन बाय बेसिक मेटल्स के प्राइसेस, टेक्सटाइल्स, मैन्युफैक्चर्ड फूड, नॉन फूड प्रोडक्ट्स, फ्यूल एंड पावर रिमेन्ड इन डिफ्लेशन. तो ये सब चीजें हैं. CPI inflation also rose to 3.21%, but this is well within the band of this 2 to 6% flexible inflation target framework. Flexible inflation target framework क्या है? 2016 के बाद हमने ये इंट्रोड्यूस किया था that we are going to keep the inflation between 2 to 6%, ideally at 4%. ठीक है. So WPI measures price changes at the producer or the wholesale level. I hope this is clear. There are three components: primary articles, manufactured products, and fuel and power. ठीक है? So you can read about this in detail. ठीक है? See the differences between WPI, CPI. I'm giving you homework here. See the differences between WPI, CPI, and PPI, Producer Price Index. ठीक है? See this difference. All right. Fine. Then trade deficit narrows to $27.1 billion in February. So trade deficit, we're talking about import when import is greater than export. Okay, so trade deficit narrows in Feb. So this trade deficit has narrowed in Feb. मतलब कम हुआ है. ठीक है, so India's merchandise trade deficit narrowed to $27.1 billion in February due to moderation in imports. ठीक है, imports हमारे कम हुए है ना, एंड दैट इज द रीजन मेजरली. एक्सपोर्ट्स तो हमारे कम ही इंक्रीज हुए हैं. इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ अ रिडक्शन इन द इंपोर्ट्स दैट ट्रेड डेफिसिट वाज कंट्रोल्ड. ठीक है, सो इंपोर्ट ड्राइवर्स वो यूजुअली पेट्रोलियम, गोल्ड, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, मशीनरी, जिसने हिस्टोरिकली हमारे गैप को या फिर डेफिसिट को बढ़ाया है. Exports supported by electronics, pharmaceuticals, engineering goods, agriculture products, but global trade uncertainties बहुत ज़्यादा है, जिस वजह से ये थोड़ा सा disrupt हुआ है. If I talk about February data, exports around $36.61 billion, imports around 63, and April to Feb financial year जो exports थे वो $402.93 billion थे, and imports इतने थे 713. ठीक है, तो ट्रेड डेफिसिट मींस व्हेन इंपोर्ट्स आर ग्रेटर देन एक्सपोर्ट्स. सो प्रेशर हमारा करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट पे ज्यादा होता है, एंड दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई वी ट्राई टू कंट्रोल आवर ट्रेड डेफिसिट. तो यहाँ पे बस जो डेटा है वो मेजरली इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है, फाइन. देन चाइनाज इकोनॉमी रिबाउंड्स इवन एज ईरान वॉर रिस्क्स लूम. तो यहाँ पे एक स्मॉल आर्टिकल आया है कि चाइना की इकोनॉमी स्टिल डूइंग वेल. Even though we have these Iran war risks, still China's economy is doing good. ठीक है, China shows signs of recovery in early 2026. Industrial output rising 6.3%. ठीक है, because domestic consumption has improved. Domestic consumption and investment has improved. ठीक है, तो ये reason है majorly. Retail sales grew 2.8%. Now, what is China doing? Is China is focusing on its domestic demand, boosting the domestic demand. चाइना इज वेरी वेरी एक्सपोर्ट ओरिएंटेड और बहुत ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट से वो अपनी इकोनॉमी को चलाते हैं, लेकिन रिसेंटली दे हैव बीन फोकसिंग ऑन देयर डोमेस्टिक डिमांड, राइट. सो रिटेल सेल्स ग्रू 2.8%, फिक्स्ड एसेट इन्वेस्टमेंट इंक्रीज्ड 1.8%. सो इंटरनल डिमांड इज इंप्रूविंग एज कंपेयर टू द प्रीवियस ईयर. यहाँ पे ठीक है, थोड़ा सा इश्यूज भी है बिकॉज ऑफ दिस वेस्ट एशिया कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, बट राइट नाउ इट इज नॉट रियली इम्पैक्टेड चाइना अलॉट. ठीक है, तो 2025 में पोस्ट रिकवरी, पोस्ट कोविड देयर वाज अ वेरी स्लोड ग्रोथ. इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ 6.3% हो रही है, रिटेल सेल्स 2.8, इन्वेस्टमेंट 1.8. तो अब चाइना इज डूइंग अ लिटिल बेटर, एंड दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन and investment revival, stabilizing growth. Obviously there are challenges like West Asia conflict which might disrupt the trade, oil prices can rise, export dependence, weak fast growth, so because of that. ठीक है, then India eases rules at key ports as West Asia crisis continues. चलो, इंडिया यूजेस रूल्स एट की पोर्ट्स एज वेस्ट एशिया क्राइसिस कंटिन्यूज. तो यहाँ पे क्या कह रहे हैं कि जो पोर्ट पे रूल्स हैं उसको इंडिया इज ट्राइंग टू ईज आउट दोज रूल्स. ऑनगोइंग जो वेस्ट एशिया क्राइसिस है, डिसरप्शंस है ऑफ द स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज, इंडिया हैज ईज द पोर्ट रिलेटेड रूल्स एंड चार्जेस, ताकि जो वेसल्स हैं उनको सब कंटिन्यूटी ऑफ ट्रेड मिले. तो पोर्ट रिलेटेड रूल्स को थोड़ा सा कम किया है, ठीक है। मेजर पोर्ट्स लाइक JNPA, जवाहरलाल नेहरू जो आपका पोर्ट है वहां पे, नवी मुंबई पोर्ट, दे आर ऑफरिंग कंसेशन सच एज रिड्यूस्ड एंकरेज, स्टोरेज, बर्थ चार्जेस, ये सारे आपके ना पोर्ट्स पे लगते हैं, ये सारे चार्जेस होते हैं, ये कुछ लगते हैं। एंड दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग 100% rebate on certain container charges also, ठीक है। तो गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल्सो प्रोमोटिंग शिफ्ट फ्रॉम LPG टू पाइप नेचुरल गैस ऑल्सो, है ना, ताकि LPG प्रेशर्स पे थोड़ा सा कम प्रेशराइज हो, है ना। तो एम इज टू स्टेबलाइज एनर्जी सप्लाई, रिड्यूस लॉजिस्टिक डिस्ट्रप्शंस, ठीक है, एंड मैनेज इन्फ्लेशनरी रिस्क ऑल्सो, ठीक है, अमिड दीज जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस, ठीक है। फिर मेजरली क्या है कि शिपिंग डिस्ट्रप्शंस बहुत है बिकॉज ऑफ वेस्ट एशिया, दैट इज व्हाई इंडिया इज ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस इट्स रूल्स, बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रिंजेंट नहीं कर रहा है, ठीक है। फाइन, प्लीज स्टडी, ये तौकीर आलम, आप जो भी हैं पढ़ाई में ध्यान दीजिए, स्टॉप स्पैमिंग ओवर हियर, ठीक है। और अगर आपने पढ़ना है तो ठीक है, अदरवाइज यू कैन जस्ट लीव द क्लास, राइट। फिर आ जाते हैं लास्ट आर्टिकल विच इज रिलेटेड टू एजेंटिक एआई। एजेंटिक एआई से रिलेटेड वी हैव डिस्कस्ड बिफोर आल्सो, विच आर केपेबल ऑफ मेकिंग देयर ओन डिसीजंस, है ना। एजेंटिक एआई डिसीजंस खुद ले सकते हैं, काम खुद कर सकते हैं, है ना। तो एजेंटिक एआई स्टार्टअप स्ट्रगल फॉर बैकर्स एज टेक स्वीप्स ग्लोब। तो यहाँ पे क्या आर्टिकल है यहाँ पे कि जो इंडियाज एजेंटिक एआई स्टार्टअप्स वो फंडिंग स्लो डाउन फेस कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, बिकॉज इन्वेस्टर्स दे आर शिफ्टिंग फ्रॉम आइडिया बेस्ड फंडिंग टू परफॉर्मेंस ड्रिवन फंडिंग। तो पहले क्या होता था कि आइडिया के हिसाब से फंडिंग मिलती थी, किसी ने आइडिया अच्छा दिया तो फंड्स मिलते थे उनको, है ना। लेकिन अब क्या है, परफॉर्मेंस बेस्ड, अगर फंडिंग में अपनी परफॉर्मेंस शो करो, परफॉर्मेंस अच्छी हुई तो आपको फंड्स मिलेगा। अब आइडिया के अकॉर्डिंग क्या था कि पता नहीं वो परफॉर्म करेगी या नहीं करेगी, देयर वाज ऑलवेज अ रिस्क, बट नाउ अगर आपकी परफॉर्मेंस अच्छी है देन यू विल गेट फंड्स, रेवेन्यू एंड ऑल, है ना। तो अभी एजेंटिक एआई जो है सॉफ्टवेयर केपेबल ऑफ ऑटोनॉमस डिसीजन मेकिंग, जो खुद की डिसीजंस ले सकते हैं, टास्क को एग्जीक्यूट कर सकते हैं। इट इज गेनिंग ग्लोबल ट्रैक्शन, इंडियन स्टार्टअप्स आर बिल्डिंग ऑन टॉप ऑफ दीज ग्लोबल एआई मॉडल, जैसे ओपन एआई, गूगल, एंथ्रोपिक है ना। तो अब यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहे हैं, आउट ऑफ अप्रोक्सीमेटली 172 एजेंटिक एआई स्टार्टअप्स इन इंडिया, ओनली अ फ्यू हैव स्केल्ड अप, एंड दैट इज बिकॉज 95% हैव नो फंडिंग ओनली। तो यहाँ पे इस फंडिंग की बात है, ठीक है। तो बेसिकली वी आर ट्राइंग टू शिफ्ट फ्रॉम जनरेटिव एआई, जो अभी फिलहाल जनरेटिव एआई है जिसको हमें खुद कमांड देना पड़ता है ह्यूमंस को, एजेंटिक एआई व्हिच कैन डू देयर डिसीजन मेकिंग ऑन देयर ओन। एजेंटिक एआई में थोड़ी स्टार्टअप फंडिंग क्रंच है, दैट इज व्हाट दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, ठीक है। फाइन, सो दिस वाज द एंटायर न्यूज़, ठीक है, and these were the articles which are important from the newspaper. I'll share the PDF with all of you on Telegram. You guys can connect with me on Telegram. Just type Mannat Educator. You will have access to my group. तो उस पे आपको मैं ये PDF send कर दूंगी. Let's do a few MCQs and then we're going to end the session. Let's see आपको समझ आया है या नहीं आया है, ठीक है। Identify the sectors in which drones are having sectoral application. जहाँ पे drones का application ज़्यादा है, agriculture, land and property surveys, infrastructure monitoring, disaster assessment. हाँ जी, try to answer कहाँ कहाँ पे ड्रोन की एप्लीकेशन है, in which all sectors. Try to guess even if you don't know, थोड़ा थोड़ा guess, तो कहाँ कहाँ पे ड्रोन्स यूज होते हैं। Quickly give me the answer. All. Madhav is saying all. Monisha is saying all. So basically all of the above. एग्रीकल्चर में भी ड्रोन सर्वेज होते हैं, लैंड एंड प्रॉपर्टी सर्विस में आपकी स्वामित्व स्कीम है जो, है ना। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मॉनिटरिंग में भी, डिजास्टर असेसमेंट में भी, राइट। So it is used in everything. All of the above is the correct answer. Okay, Shananjana, Akanksha, Prashasti, Monisha, Madhav. National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA) operates under which of the following ministry? तो एक होते हैं NDMA होता है, एक होता है SDMA, State Disaster Management Authority. ये वर्क करते हैं किस मिनिस्ट्री के अंदर फॉर डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट? मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्थ साइंसेज, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, होम अफेयर्स, एनवायरमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज, नन ऑफ द अबव. Which ministry do you think they operate under? डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के लिए. For disaster management, we have National Disaster Management Authority at the national level and we have State Disaster Management Authority at the state level. ठीक है? What is the answer? Home Affairs, Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Anybody else? D. The correct answer is Ministry of Home Affairs. तो जिसने भी Home Affairs दिया आंसर माधव, very good. So Home Affairs, it is under Ministry of Home Affairs. ठीक है? Fine. Which of the following Indian ports has become the first major port in India to implement digital twin technology for enhancing operational efficiency and real-time monitoring? JNPA, Paradeep, Deendayal, Chidambaram Port, Visakhapatnam. Which Indian port has become first major port in India to implement digital twin technology? क्योंकि ports थे न्यूज में तो इससे रिलेटेड एक करंट अफेयर है. Which has become the first major port? This is part of your GA type questions में. To implement digital twin technology, port for enhancing operational efficiency and real time monitoring. The correct answer is VO Chidambaram Port. Absolutely correct. VOC. Very good. Very good. All of you. Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism is an initiative of European Union, Gulf Cooperation Council, WTO, BRICS या NHAI. ये Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Yes, EU, European Union. ठीक है? If the RBI decides to adopt an expansionist monetary policy, यानी कि expansionary monetary policy, है ना? Means increasing money supply in the economy. What will it not do? You have to find out the incorrect part. Increase SLR, increase MSF, cut bank rate and repo rate. तो क्या नहीं करेगा इसमें से? Expansionary monetary policy means trying to increase the money supply in the economy. See, 1 and 2 only, absolutely correct. इंक्रीज नहीं करेंगे एसएलआर, इंक्रीज करेंगे तो मनी सप्लाई तो कम हो जाएगी बिकॉज ज्यादा पैसा वो साइड पे रखेंगे एंड दे विल नॉट बी एबल टू लेंड, है ना. इंक्रीज दी एमएसएफ, वो भी इंक्रीज करेंगे, उससे भी मनी सप्लाई कम हो जाएगी. सो यही करेंगे बस, ये दो नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है, फाइन. सो दैट इज ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड एवरीवन. I hope that you don't have any doubt in today's session. Download the PDF, try to revise it. I will share the PDF with all of you on Telegram. ठीक है, for more for more current affairs related and all, you can also connect with me on my personal YouTube channel as well, Economics with Mannat. ठीक है, so Instagram and YouTube also, Economics with Mannat. ठीक है, you can connect with me on Instagram and YouTube. I have shared the link with all of you on my Telegram channel only. ठीक है. Okay, Akanksha. Okay, Manisha, Sureka. I hope that things are clear to everybody. Just let me know if everything is clear. And we're going to meet up in the next session. Till then, have a great day ahead. Have a great weekend. Weekend तो अभी हुआ नहीं है ना, आज तो Thursday ही है. चलो. But anyway, so take care all of you. We're going to meet on Saturday now with the next analysis. And I'll see you all in my next one. Bye-bye. Keep studying.